to Kyiv. Let's bring in Gulliver Cragg. Gulliver, good to talk to you. Let's first of all talk about Kharkiv and why, in the last 72 hours or so, you think it might be a target again.
Well, that's a good question, which a lot of people in Ukraine are asking themselves. 2 days ago, we had 8 civilians killed in Kharkiv by Russian attacks. Today, 2, and the number of wounded is now being put at more than 45. 10 hits on Kharkiv city today. Among the targets, part of the electricity infrastructure, but also a sports centre and a shopping mall. We don't know really why these places are being targeted. There is a lot of speculation as to the shopping mall. A video is going around online of a Kharkiv resident complaining that what she described as people claiming to be soldiers but who wouldn't show their ID having taken control of the shopping mall, and she gave the address. She's coming in for a lot of flack now. In Ukraine generally there is a pretty widespread acceptance of soldiers taking over civilian buildings if they need to, but I guess it's one thing if it's disused factories or schools that are not in use because it's too dangerous, and another thing a shopping centre that's open. But we do not know if she was telling the truth in this video or if this is a part of Russian propaganda. It certainly got a lot of people talking. These attacks on Kharkiv may be related to the battle that's going on in the north of Kharkiv region, where the Ukrainians basically managed to stop the Russians from advancing with that new front that they opened back in May. But the Russians are still trying to take the town of Vovchansk. They haven't managed to do that, but there's been a lot of fighting there in recent days and reports of the Russians sending reinforcements to join that battle there. So, I mean, it might be related to that. That's one of the areas where the Ukrainian army is holding the line reasonably well, in stark contrast to what's going on in the Donbass, where the Russian army continues to advance rapidly towards Pokrovsk, leading to a more and more criticism of the Ukrainian military and civilian leadership for how it's handling the situation there, with some soldiers confident that the army will be able to hold the city even if the Russians make it to its gates, and others predicting much worse consequences for Ukraine.
And we've heard, Gulliver, haven't we, from President Zelensky too, I think on social media today, kind of giving a sense of why we're seeing these drone attacks in Russia, and I guess also on a weekend where we've seen President Zelensky once again calling on Western allies, particularly the US, to allow missiles to be used deeper into Russia.
Yes, the Ukrainians are absolutely convinced that if they were allowed to use long-range missiles, they could stop a lot of these attacks on Ukrainian cities and on the country's electricity infrastructure. That's mainly because they want to target air bases. Meanwhile, they're proceeding on a daily basis with their campaign of drone attacks that were mainly targeting places like oil refineries, oil depots, in a bid to harm the Russian economy and the Russian army's logistics, their ability to refuel their military vehicles and so on. Lately, and this was certainly the case today, they've also started targeting power stations in Russia, which is perhaps a bit of tit for tat. Perhaps they're hoping that the Russians will stop targeting Ukrainian power stations. Volodymyr Zelensky in his recent press conference confirmed actually that talks in an online format had gone on that topic. At the moment, Russia continues to target Ukrainian power stations and Ukraine increasingly targeting Russian ones. The Russians, as you said, claim to have shot down all 158 drones. Videos circulating online would suggest that either there were more than 158 or not all of them were shot down, because certainly in various different regions of Russia, fires have broken out at oil depots and other installations.
Briefly, Gulliver, what's your sense of the pressure at the moment internally on President Zelensky? There's been conflicting reports about some internal upset, different factions upset at the president's conduct of the war. I mean, are these over-exaggerated? What's your sense?
I mean, I think that there is for now still a feeling that the Ukrainians have to rally around their president, and that what he did in 2022 was probably not something that, you know, another president would have been able to do in terms of the communication. But yes, certainly he's coming in for more and more criticism because of the presence of people who are accused of corruption with pretty strong evidence that are very, very close to him in his presidential office, his administration, as he called it, his unwillingness to fire those people, and very, very trigger-happy willingness to fire other people, such as the head of the Air Force the other day, for example. He seems to be making a lot of high-profile personnel changes, which his critics are saying are more to do with installing people who are loyal to him and his immediate circle than with any problems with the competence or probity of those people.
That's really interesting. Gulliver, thank you. Great to talk to you. Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent in